Becoming a parent, there's so much to celebrate, and there's no bigger celebration than the first birthday. Today our theme is deserts and desserts, and we are doing an acrylic sign for Ava's first birthday. So we're working on acrylic today. You can get them in all different sizes, all different thicknesses. Acrylic is very, very good if you want to do illustrations and drawings. With acrylic, I'm going to be working on both sides, which is kind of nice, and the advantage of acrylic, kids' birthdays, we can really go crazy with illustrations and colors and design. I sketch multiple times before I even begin working on the acrylic. What's important, I feel like, is to choose the right type of font for the sign. So our theme is desert and desserts, and I think about cactuses, I think about like Western a little bit sometimes. So I've pulled up like this particular font because it has these cute little spikes on it, which I think kind of like emulate the cactuses. On top of that, because we know we're going to be drawing some cactuses, back in the day we would have to go to the library, we had to do some research, but nowadays with the internet it's so easy just to Google cactus and then get some reference pictures before you begin drawing or painting. It's always important to lay out what font and like where everything is going to be on your sign in the same shape as the surface that you're working on. I'm going to be aligning all of my lettering in the center so that I can leave a little bit of room on the sides for my illustrations, which is going to be the cactuses. My go-to tool, my number one tool for everything that I do for sketching on every surface is still going to be the Stabilo All. That's what we're using today. We are going to start, and I am going to tape up my board now. Currently, this is the layout. So all my lettering is going to be in the center, and then I've left some space on the side for my illustrations. So right now, I have to take a look at my sketch and map out where each line is going to be. I always like to draw the letter V first because it's only 3 letters. It's easier to put the center letter into the center of your sign and then work outwards. The first thing that I would do is make sure like my lettering spacing is good, and then I would draw the letters in, and then after I've done the skeleton bones of the lettering, then I would add in like the details, which are like the serifs and the little spikes that give the type like a character. It's good to kind of have guidelines to make sure your slant for your cursive is on par. So I would suggest putting like light lines to make sure your script is always hanging the right way, not too upright, not too slanted. So sweet, there's S-W-E-E-T. I gave the W a little bit more space because I know W's are a little bit wider. W and M's are always a little bit wider, just to keep that in mind. Because I know I'm going to be adding a serif like to the side, I don't put the beginning of the E just right up to the tape because I know I need a little bit of space to add that detailing later. So I sketch out a little bit. So next is enjoy and take a. So the same thing as made our year so. You'll see that I like to use mirroring a lot. So like Ava and the word sweet and the word tasty is going to be the same font. Made our year so plus the enjoy and take a treat is going to be script. So I'm using 2 types of fonts and then similar coloring for each section as well. Alternatively, when you're on an angle like this, instead of using tape to make sure your letters are all the same, you can also use your Stabilo All to sketch boxes. So it's like at this point as an artist, it's your preference of what you want to do. But what's important is that all the letters are the same size and the same weight, same height. That's what's important. How you get there is kind of like up to you. Today we're working with two types of paint, acrylic and then as well as gouache. Gouache is a water-based paint. It's kind of like a poster paint. Its benefits is that the opacity is very good, so you won't see through the paint as much. Acrylic, you would have to kind of layer many layers of acrylic in order to get the same opacity. I'm also working with the Milestone acrylic paint markers. The paint markers are actually very good, the best actually when you're lettering. I prefer paint pens when I'm lettering and paint brushes when I'm illustrating. So when you first get your pen, if it's a fresh pen, what you would do is you would shake it really vigorously to ensure that the paint is mixed really, really well within the vessel. From there, I would usually face it upright, and then you kind of press down on the tip a couple of times to kind of, I think there's a seal inside, maybe break the seal. And then I would cap it again, shake it some more, and then this is when you would go and you would press it down on some pieces of scrap paper to ensure that the flow saturates the tip of the felt pen. So don't worry, you don't have to go exactly on top of your sketch. I just use that as a guideline, okay? But so when you're working with your lettering now, you kind of can be a little bit more thoughtful, a little bit more structured. It's very important to thicken your strokes as you go. That's one of the techniques that is very important when you're lettering beyond paper. For example, for the O, I would draw my O and the tail would start for the U. But before I start the U, I would thicken the strokes of the O wherever it needs to be thickened. And then once that's done, I would start with the U. Same, you would draw your U, and then I would kind of like stop halfway at the R, thicken your strokes, and then continue on with your R. Milestone paint pen's durability on the surface is actually a lot stronger than the Sharpie water-based paint pen because it's an acrylic, and because this is an acrylic sign, they kind of like stick together really well. So it's kind of like you don't really have to worry. The only thing is if you were intentionally trying to scratch it, it would come off. If you put any type of solvent, nail polish remover, Windex, then it would come off. Otherwise, the Stabilo all kind of just melts off. Like you can kind of go to town on it and with your hands or a cloth, and it's not going to make any difference to your lettering. So at this point, I've turned the sign around, and I'm actually going to color in the Ava Sweet and Tasty in a different color to give it like more depth. When you're coloring block of color like this, you want to make sure you don't leave any streaks and make sure it's nice and full so the color looks bold and the opacity is 100%. So this was one of my reference cactuses, and as you can see, there's like a highlight, a medium green, and then kind of like a darker green. So how I would create this on acrylic is I would mix a light colored green, and then I would kind of like paint in like the highlighted area in a circle. And then I would kind of mix in a little bit of a darker and then mix the paint again to create like the medium color. And then go in with the darkest one on top of the two colors that we've already blended. So with the medium tone, how we would do that, so we essentially have to darken it a little bit. So I would add a little bit more dark green paint. I might add a little bit of red. Once I add the red, the green becomes a little bit more dull. So for these other cactuses, I'm actually gonna paint a full color, but then add the lights and darks in the front. So as you can see, like there's like different ways that you can approach each cactus. So, and then we would mirror this on the other side, and then we should have a complete sign. If you take anything away from this tutorial, it's just to be able to add your personal touch to all your celebrations. I do things on a grand scale because I love it, but if you don't have the time and you want to do something small, take these techniques and apply them to a small celebration on a small piece of acrylic. Just remember to incorporate your mark and your lettering in all your celebrations. And there will be so many more to come with children. There are so many milestones and so many birthdays and so many things to celebrate. So if you would like to learn more about how to letter on things, my tips and tools and tricks, it's all in my book, Extraordinary Hand Lettering.